In tonight's Fox 7 Focus, a highly anticipated murder trial gets underway on Monday here in Austin. Kaitlyn Armstrong is charged with killing pro cyclist and romantic rival Mariah Wilson at an East Austin home back in May of 2022. And joining us with a look ahead to the trial is Rick Flores, an Austin-based defense attorney. Rick, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, John.
So this is obviously such a high-profile case. It was a murder that made national attention when it happened. We have a young pro cyclist here who was the victim. How could that all play into this case when things get underway on Monday?
Sure. So on Monday, jury selection will begin, and it'll be interesting to see how both sides, the state and the defense, try to find 12 impartial jurors. Certainly a lot of people have heard about this. As you mentioned, it made national news. And there's a lot of people who know a lot of the details, too many of the details to be fair and impartial. So it'll be interesting to see when the trial starts on Monday and they're doing jury selection, how they're able to weed those people out. Tuesday will be the opening statements, and that's what I'm excited to see, because that's really kind of a preview of what both sides are going to be presenting to the jury.
And one thing that's obviously on our minds here in Austin that watch the news is the fact that Armstrong tried to escape, right, from authorities. She was on her way to a doctor's appointment, and she didn't make it very far, but it was an escape attempt. How do you think that could play into what we see unfold? Obviously, we're going to see new charges added, but what else could we see?
Right. So there's already been new charges added. I think it's going to be an issue at this trial for the murder case. The prosecution is going to try to get that in, and the defense is, of course, going to try to keep that out. I think the defense would probably argue that it's too remote from the time of the actual murder. And I think that the prosecution is going to say that it's very relevant and that it's a sign of her consciousness of guilt.
And not just this escape attempt. Obviously, we're talking about Costa Rica. She was arrested in Costa Rica back in, I think, June of 2022, which was closer in time, right, to the murder. Do you think the prosecution will try to use that and sort of establish a pattern here, sort of paint her as guilty? That
will, without a doubt, be a part of the trial. The prosecution is going to, of course, want the jury to hear all of those details, like you said, the fact that she escaped out of Texas and then to Costa Rica. She sold her Jeep. She even had plastic surgery, cut her hair, dyed her hair. I mean, all of those things are going to be very difficult for her defense team to explain why she did that. I don't know if anybody's going to be able to get around the idea that those aren't exactly the actions of an innocent person.
And that goes to my next question. I mean, as a defense attorney, what would be your strategy? How would you come at this case strategically?
You know, a lot of people often forget that the burden of proof is on the prosecution and that the defense doesn't really have to present any sort of theory or evidence. If they wanted to, they could just sit there and let the prosecution present all of the evidence. But in a case like this, the jury is certainly going to be wanting an explanation of why those things happened. And so it'll be interesting to see what sort of theory the defense puts forward. And I don't know if that's going to be that she didn't do it, that they got the wrong person, or that there was some sort of an argument. You know, always, whenever there's a murder involved, there's always the possibility of a self-defense claim. And I don't think we've really been presented with any of that. I haven't read anything like that or heard anything around the courthouse, so it'll be interesting to see what the actual defensive theory is.
Obviously, the defense could have a challenging case here, but do you think one of their advantages could be the fact that there's not really a lot of direct evidence here? It's more circumstantial.
Right. And whenever you're dealing with a jury trial, you're dealing with people who don't really know a lot about the legal system and want just common sense explanations. And oftentimes when there's no direct evidence, there's no eyewitness, there's no video of the murder, sometimes that's enough for a jury to hang their hat on and acquit somebody.
All right, Rick Flores, defense attorney here in Austin. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It'll be interesting to see how the case wraps up.
It will. And the case begins, again, the trial begins on Monday. We will have coverage here beginning Sunday on Fox 7 Austin News at 9, and of course, throughout the day on Monday.